Have you ever found out the person you trusted most was lying to you? I did, on my wedding day. As I stood at the altar, ready to exchange vows with my fiancé, my sister stood up and dropped a bombshell. The ring on my finger, the one my fiancé had given me, belonged to her. I felt like my whole world was crashing down. How could my fiancé do this to me? And why was my sister just now speaking up? I thought we were happy, or at least, I thought we were on the same page. But I guess I was wrong. My mind was racing with questions, and I didn't know what to do. The ceremony came to a halt, and all eyes were on us. I was humiliated, and I didn't know how to process this information. My sister's words cut deep, and I felt betrayed by the two people I loved most. I remember the day my fiancé proposed to me like it was yesterday. We were on a romantic getaway in a beautiful resort, surrounded by crystal-clear waters and lush greenery. He got down on one knee, pulled out a small box, and asked me to be his wife. I was overwhelmed with emotion, and I said yes without hesitation. But now, as I stood at the altar, I couldn't help but wonder if it was all a lie. Was our whole relationship a facade? I thought about all the times we had spent together, all the laughter, and all the adventures. But I also thought about the times he had been distant, the times he had lied to me, and the times he had made me feel like I was crazy. My sister's words had opened up a Pandora's box, and I didn't know how to close it. I looked at my fiancé, and I saw the guilt in his eyes. He knew he had been caught, and he didn't know how to get out of it. The room was silent, except for the sound of my sister's sobbing. She was apologizing, but I didn't know if I could ever forgive her. I felt like my whole family was against me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. The wedding planner was trying to intervene, but I just wanted to get out of there. I wanted to run away from this situation and never look back. But I knew I couldn't. I had to face the music, no matter how hard it was. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't know what to do or who to turn to. My sister and I hadn't spoken since the wedding, and my fiancé was trying to make amends. But I didn't know if I could ever trust him again. I felt like I was living in a nightmare, and I didn't know how to wake up. I started to question everything, including our relationship and my own sanity. I felt like I was losing myself, and I didn't know how to get back on track. I started to withdraw from my friends and family, and I just wanted to be alone. I didn't know how to process my emotions, and I didn't know how to deal with the pain. I felt like I was drowning, and I didn't know how to keep my head above water. But then, something inside of me clicked. I realized that I deserved better, and I deserved to be happy. I started to focus on myself, and I started to heal. I started to see that the situation was not my fault, and that I was a victim of circumstance. I started to forgive myself, and I started to move on. But just as I was starting to heal, my sister showed up at my doorstep. She was crying, and she was begging for forgiveness. I didn't know what to do, but a part of me wanted to forgive her. I wanted to move on, and I wanted to start fresh. But another part of me was still hurt, and it didn't know if it could ever trust her again. My sister and I talked for hours, and she told me the truth. She had been in love with my fiancé, and she had been trying to sabotage our relationship from the beginning. She had been manipulating him, and she had been using him to get to me. I was shocked, and I was hurt. But I was also relieved. I finally knew the truth, and I could finally move on. I realized that my fiancé was not the man I thought he was, and that he was capable of hurting me. I realized that my sister was not the sister I thought she was, and that she was capable of betrayal. But I also realized that I was strong, and that I could get through anything. I forgave my sister, and I forgave myself. I started to see that we were all human, and that we all made mistakes. I started to see that forgiveness was not about forgetting, but about moving on. And I started to move on, one step at a time. I closed the chapter on my fiancé, and I closed the chapter on my sister's betrayal. I started a new chapter, one that was filled with hope, love, and forgiveness. And I knew that I would always be okay, no matter what came my way. In the end, I learned that forgiveness is not always easy, but it is always necessary. I learned that holding on to grudges and anger only hurts us, and that letting go is the key to healing. I learned that family is not always perfect, but it is always worth fighting for. And I learned that I am stronger than I thought, and that I can get through anything. My wedding day was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, but it turned out to be a day of revelation. It was a day that changed my life forever. And it was a day that taught me the true meaning of forgiveness and love. I will always remember that day, and I will always be grateful for the lessons it taught me. And as I look back, I realize that the ring on my finger was never the most important thing. It was the love in my heart, and the forgiveness that I gave to those who hurt me. That is the true treasure. And that is the true happiness.